Saru's origin story. Was it everything you were hoping for, Cam?
I dreamed of so much, Tyler. I looked up at the stars, the brightest stars,
Yeah.
and hoped for a great Saru origin story,
Um,
and I got a pretty good one.
I looked up and I got harvested. It was horrifying. You know, I don't want to tell you what's on the other side of that light. But I wonder going into this if we were like, is it really going to give us answers to questions that we never really were all that curious about? Like, yeah, we could have put two and two together. He was a prey species that somehow got off his planet and joined Starfleet. I think this is actually a genuinely thoughtful story that they give us here, and it
Yeah.
actually filled in some of the blanks. It made us understand the character in an interesting way.
There was some real poetry to it. I think the voiceover actually helped. And normally voiceover can be a little bit grating, but I actually think Doug Jones just has a really good voice for that sort of thing. He brought a lot of emotion to it. But just seeing the touches of the relationship between him and his sister, I thought added so much to the Saru character and his sort of emotional life that the show really didn't very much.
Yeah.
He was so much kind of an outsider on the show a lot of the time. You'd have him with scenes with Burnham, but he was often angry at her. Whereas you didn't get these moments of tenderness with Saru that I think the relationship with his sister afforded.
Yeah. The other kind of semi-origin that we got here was one Lieutenant Giorgio. And we also get a sense of her as a science officer, where she's making contact with Saru from a pre-warp civilization and making a case to the Federation for some reason to go scoop up a pre-warp alien. I didn't quite get it, but
it's the early years of the... Well, it's not that early, but, the Federation's still shaping it up, and Starfleet, maybe they're low on numbers.
Fair enough, yes.
There's a Tribble wearing a uniform sitting somewhere.
I like the idea of exploring more of these flashbacks with, say, a Giorgio, and getting to know her as kind of the scientist. And that's what I love most about the captains, and we understand them as explorers, and this actually really establishes her as a curious person who does want to explore.
Giorgio's a very good one to point out because, also obviously because she's in the story, but also because they seem to want to very much invest us in this character of Giorgio. We saw her in the pilot episode of Discovery, and then her legacy carried throughout that season. But it also feels like they very much want us to care about this character going forward. And it makes me wonder if a Giorgio show would have been a good idea. Was it kind of a, maybe not the greatest decision to not just do a Michelle Yeoh Giorgio show?
Well, you and I discussed this before on the podcast, where we kind of like the idea of Star Trek Shenzhou, where, they're on a more, rub-a-dub sort of ship, and they're fixing beacons and helping crab aliens with wells.
Yeah.
I think that was actually kind of what Star Trek often does best, and I don't know if this war story that we got instead with the Discovery crew was really what Star Trek excels at. I think the character beats with the Discovery crew were fantastic. That's what Star Trek needs to focus on here. I'll throw this out to you. Are there other characters that you think could deserve some sort of origin story that we got to a certain degree with Saru as well as Giorgio in this past episode?
Yeah, well, I would love to see even more JoJo prequel stories. I think that would be a great idea. But in terms of origins, I think Voke is a really interesting one because, again, he's son of none, so he has no real status within Klingon society. I think a episode or short trek or something just about Voke's standing pre the Velcon Hello would be really fascinating because I know there's a comic book story, but that's not the same. I want to see the TV version, the actual canon explanation as to what Voke's life was like.
And if we're talking Klingons, I wouldn't mind more of an exploration of L'Rell. She talked early on, I think in episode 4, about how she chose to be more of a bridge between her houses. One with T'Kuvma, the other one with was it Mokai?
Right.
With the House of Deceivers and Liars.
Which sounds so awesome. How do you not want to see more of them?
I would love to see that. I'll pitch this to you, Cam. Be honest. Do you think that if we saw an origin story of the original Ash Tyler, not Voke, but Ash that we never really met, could that, I don't know, fill in some blanks about the character that we actually did get to know during season 1 of Star Trek Discovery?
Well, given that Ash Tyler is a blank, you can only fill him in. But I actually think this is a pretty good idea, just because Ash Tyler is a character who's very ill-defined in his human form early on in the show, during the romance period with Burnham. And so I would have liked a little, maybe if they could have done short treks at that point in time, they could have given us a bit of backstory as to who this character was in his past. I think that would have been interesting. Another one that I would actually like to see is Landry, just to explain how she turned out the way she did.
My explanation is like this character is clearly meant to be like a mirror universe character that
Definitely.
came in with Lorca,
Mm-hmm.
and then they, for whatever reason, decided, oh, we want to bring her back in the mirror universe arc. So that's her prime universe that we initially met,
Yeah.
and who was killed by Ripper.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what the original intention was with the character, and I think. So how does she become this bad apple in
Yeah.
the Prime universe? It never really made sense
No.
to me.
I would love to know that story, and I know they're not going to make a Landry spin-off show.
They
That would
might.
be well, they might at this rate, but I could totally see that supporting a 15-minute short track. They obviously like Rika Sharma. They did her, with the Mirror Universe, brought Landry back for a couple episodes. They obviously like that actress, so why not do a 15-minute short track?
Okay, but I'm still begging. Daft Punk, I need your origin story.